Okay, hey, so I've got 2 more videos to finish up, and as you can see, I already started doing some lettering. I did start this video on another day, and my battery died. This is what I get for trying to do too much, so there we go. A little reminder, what I've been doing is demonstrating some faux calligraphy for my patrons, explaining what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, why I'm making the choices that I am, and letting you see me do it live. I've been doing 2 quotes at a time to ensure the videos are not super long, but also to make sure that my battery doesn't die. So as you can see, this one says Colors of the Wind. That is one of the songs from Pocahontas. And then of course we have this one down here, Be Our Guest. I don't know what 2 ones I had before, so don't mind that. But as you can see, I've already gotten this one started, and I'm going to go ahead and finish it and then walk through the second one, and then we'll stop and I'll probably do the other video, and then I'm going to work on getting all of these up for you. So as you can see, the word of is already done, and I'm going to make this lower, and on all of the downstrokes is where you thicken the lines. And that's really the secret right there. And you do this even when you do traditional calligraphy. You would just press down on the nib of the pen. And voila. So as you can see, I've got some pencil guidelines going on here. That is certainly always an option. If you're going to do black, it works perfectly, but if you're going to do any kind of lighter color or any color where the pencil will show through, remember you won't be able to erase it. So it's better to do this with like a very dark color. And one of the reasons to do guidelines is when you're starting, you know, it does take some doing to get the motions down. You're basically learning to write all over again. And you can do guidelines whether you're doing faux calligraphy or you're doing, you know, calligraphy with a brush marker or a pen or a paintbrush. That's always an option. But another reason to do the guidelines is that it allows you to really get and practice your spacing. Because spacing matters a lot when it comes to lettering. If you crowd your letters together and it's not intentional, it looks very messy and unkempt, and it can be hard to make out, you know, what you've created. And whenever I'm doing faux calligraphy, I like to go ahead and thicken my lines as I go. That way I don't have to remember exactly where the downstrokes were, and I don't run the risk of accidentally doing a downstroke somewhere where I shouldn't have. And, you know, this is just a great way to practice the styles of lettering that you want to do. And I will ink the princess later. So there we go. This is the first one. As you noticed, I crossed my T and dotted my I after I was done with the whole of the word, not just the letter, because that allowed me to see how much space I actually had. So that's another little beginner tip. So here we go. Be Our Guest is from The Beauty and the Beast. And here we go. Now, one thing I will say is in the last video, I'm probably not going to do any narration, in part because I'm tired. And then you can just see the process, and you know, you've seen me do it 10 times before then, so not having any kind of narration that one time, I think it'll be okay. One thing I will say is I really like to use gel pens for this operation. It doesn't leave the indentations that a ballpoint pen makes. And then you also notice with this R, I went ahead and formed the whole of the letter, and that's because anywhere you stop, you'll have these little jogs of ink. And so for certain letters like R, X, and S, it's easier if you just form the whole letter. And another thing to consider when you're doing your lettering is where you're thickening your lines. As you can see here, this line was thickened on this side, and then this one was thickened on this side, and that one was thickened on that side. And if I had thickened the lines on the same side and they were close together, then what that would do is that would crowd the word and make it a little blurry, a little hard to see, and not as visually pleasing. And that's especially true when you start talking about spaces like here between this letter and this. Now, if you give yourself enough space between your letters, then you can get away with thickening the same side, or the adjacent side, rather. But here, that is not enough space between those two. That will look really crowded. So we'll thicken this side. And what I'll probably do after I post all of the videos, what I will go ahead and do is make probably a relatively short post that just shares some of my tips for doing your own faux calligraphy, considerations that you want to think about based on my expertise and my experience, as well as fielding any questions in the comments. So I thank you for being my guest as I did some lettering, and I hope that you have a wonderful day.